Hi, welcome to Reichi Otimam. I thought I would speak today about growth mindsets. It's such an important part of our personal journeys as well as how we raise our children. So a while ago, there's a psychologist, an American psychologist called Dweck, and she first coined the phrase growth mindset, and she sort of compared this to a fixed mindset. And she said, as humans, we tend to fluctuate between having a growth mindset and having a fixed mindset. We're never entirely one or the other, but we do have tendencies to be one or the other, and we can foster one or the other. And so I'm just going to talk today about why it's so important to foster a growth mindset with your children, and then some things that you can do to do that at home. So what is a growth mindset and what does it look like? So well, let's start with a fixed mindset. So a fixed mindset is very much a belief that your abilities are predestined or preordained, and you're either good at something or you're not. You have natural talents or you don't. Failures are simply the limit of your abilities. So you stick to what you know, you stick to what you know you're good at. When you're good at something, you may become a little bit arrogant about it because it's just that you're naturally good at it. And if you can't do something, you tend to shy away from it. You don't like to be challenged because you know what you can do and you stick to that. And we all know those people, and we all are those people sometimes. So it's often linked with a lot of anxiety. Children who are scared to do things, they might get laughed at. They think they can't do it. They think being unable to do something is humiliating, it's shameful, because it means they don't have that talent and they're never going to have that talent. And then that's compared to your growth mindset. And your growth mindset is really the idea that every failure is a stepping stone. It's a learning that you can do anything you set your mind to. You just have to practice and have hard work, and then you can get there. It's the belief that challenges help you grow. So you're not afraid to try new things. You're not afraid to put yourself into challenging situations, because you know that even if you don't succeed, and even if you do get laughed at the end of the day, you can succeed if you keep working on it. And even if you do get laughed at, it's not you that's being laughed at, it's the thing that you're doing. So there's that detachment to what you're doing, and it's really about the effort and the learning and the trying that goes into it. Now, I know when I look at those which I would rather be, and I know when I look at those which I would rather my children are. But the truth is that in a very outcomes-based society, it is actually quite hard to have a growth mindset. In a society where shame and vulnerability are used to help mold people's behavior, children become very afraid of trying and of giving their best, because they feel ashamed if they don't reach the outcome. And they feel embarrassed because they feel it's some failure on their behalf personally, as opposed to just unable to do something. So and as I said, I really know which I would rather my children are, and I know this. I've spoken before how Joey really doesn't want to do things that he fails at. He doesn't want help. He wants to be able to do it himself. Even things like writing. He's recently started trying to write his name and doing some writing. And if I try and show him how to do things, he gets so angry with me because he wants to just be able to do it. And I say to him, my boy, everyone has to learn how to write. But there's quite a fixed thing around there that it's some way embarrassing that he can't do it. And there's a lot of anxiety that comes with that, of not wanting to try things in case he can't do it. So I've had a reflection and a think about it, and I've looked up some strategies. Some I already do, and some I'm going to try and do more, on just how to encourage a growth mindset with myself and my husband and my children. So there are 5 main things that I've come up with. And the first thing is, which I do think we try and do as a family, and it's forget about perfection. Perfection does not exist. And if we want our children to be perfect, to behave perfectly, to achieve perfectly in any way, we're setting them up for failure, because it doesn't exist. Mistakes always happen. External circumstances always influence things. Nothing really is perfect. And I think that we're very forgiving of our children, and we allow them to not be perfect. But we've got to also be careful of the standard we set for ourselves, because often children have anxiety around perfection, not because as parents we expect them to be perfect, but because they look up and they look at us and we're expecting ourselves to be perfect. So we've got to just be very careful that we are willing to show our vulnerabilities to our children, and we are not showing shame when we are unable to do things, or when we don't achieve something that we wanted to, that we can show them that it's a growth point for us as well. So the first one is scrap perfection. Okay. The second point is use the phrase yet. So don't say, I can't do that. Say, I can't do that yet. And when your child says, I don't like that, you can just say, yes, my love, you don't like it yet, but maybe one day you will. Or, I can't do it. You can't do it yet, my love, but maybe you will. So just including that yet. And again, it's not only for when you speak to your children, it's also with yourself. Oh no, mommy doesn't like those. Mommy doesn't like those yet, but maybe she will one day. Thanks for offering. So just showing that you too can change your likes and dislikes. You too can change your abilities. So just including in the classroom, in the home, with your children, with yourself, that phrase yet at the end of a sentence that you feel defines something you're unable to do or do not like. Okay, the third thing is really highlighting intention and effort. And this often gets frowned at. And actually, a lot of Carol Dweck's stuff has been used in the modern workplace and looked at, people get a lot of, there's some criticism around it, because she says, it's not just about how hard people are working, it's also about the outcomes, like at the end of the day, their bottom lines. And it's the same with our children. They do need to achieve things. There are goals that they need to achieve. There are things they need to learn. There's behavior they need to emulate. But she never says the outcome is not important. But what she says is you need to also place emphasis on the intention and the effort. And I think that this often happens because children often are well-intended when they do something. And the outcome doesn't always work out as planned. And we all know what that feels like. That feels absolutely awful when you really want to do something and you try and do it. And it all goes wrong. What's the phrase? No good intention goes unpunished. So, that kind of thing, it feels awful because you really wanted to do something good. And I think often our reactionary response as a parent is to be like, oh no, my love, don't do that. When they're trying to water the plants and they take the water from through the house. So it's really focusing on the intention. Oh my love, I'm so glad you're watering the plants. That was really good initiative. But let's try and start from the tap outside. That sort of thing. So really focusing on the intention. And actually this week I've got some really awesome supplies from Tower Stickers, and I was so happy to see on their reward stickers, I don't know if you can see here, but they have a set of reward stickers that are not only about the outcome. So it's not only a well done or a you did it, but there's some really nice little phrases. They've got some cute little pictures, and it's like, you're a problem solver, you gave 100% effort, you really tried hard. So it's not that you forget the outcome, but it's that you also focus on the effort and the intentions. I just thought those are really cool. So yeah, those you can get through Tower, but I'm definitely going to be using those with my boys, and I think they're a really nice thing to use in the classroom as well. And just, there's another one, you took a risk. I think that's such a great one for a child like Joey who is scared to try new things. Well, you know what? When he does it, just you took a risk, well done, just a sticker to wear on him. It didn't work, you didn't ride the bike, but that's okay. You took a risk, you tried, and that feels good. And really just highlight that. Okay, so highlighting the intention and effort. And then there's something that I used a lot in brain injury when I was doing pediatric brain injury rehab. And it's something called errorless learning. And it's with brain injury, often there's a frustration because the child could do it beforehand, or the patient could do it beforehand, and they know they could, and now they're unable to do it, and they just don't have those pathways in the brain. So to help reduce the frustration and to help reinforce the fact that the brain is changing and growing, we use something called errorless learning. Now, errorless learning is where you don't correct, you add on to. So for example, when a little child is learning to speak, and you might have a cat at home and they're no cat, and you go out to the neighbors and the neighbor has a dog and they point to the dog and they say, cat, because they know cat. It's something called accommodation, and they're going on what they know. It's got a tail, it's got legs, it's small, it could be a cat. And in their mind, that's what they've categorized on. So instead of saying, no, my love, that's a dog, you say, yes, it's like a cat. Look, it's fluffy like a cat too, but it's a little bit different. I think we call this a dog. So it's just growing on the idea. So instead of correcting, we grow on an idea. And so often we want to give our children the right answer. So they say something that isn't necessarily correct. And then we prioritize the rightness of it over the connection and over the idea of growth. So what I challenge you to do is to, when your child says something that isn't necessarily correct, to look for part of it that is correct and can correlate, and look at why you think they got there, and to focus on that and then grow it. And that's something we call errorless learning, and it works amazingly in therapy, and I think it's something that if we could all do in the home, it would really help to encourage that growth mindset. And then the last thing is just to really, and it seems quite obvious, but sometimes we all make this mistake, really separate your child from their actions and their outcomes. So the outcome can be great and the child is great. The outcome can be bad, but the child is still great. So really getting away from labeling the child and rather labeling the behavior, or labeling the effort, or labeling the action, rather than the child. So moving away from good boy to that was a really good thing you did, because understanding that you are not this sort of set of things. You can be so much more, and that's just an action you are choosing to do, whether good or bad, can really help with encouraging that growth mindset. So I'll just give those quickly to you again. It's forget about perfection, scrap it for you and your kids, use the phrase yet, highlight the intention and the effort, whether it's saying it or using things like these stickers from Tower, really highlighting the intention and what was good about it regardless of the outcome. And use errorless learning, so rather than correcting, build on what they've presented, and then separate your child from the action or behavior. So rather label the action or behavior so that they don't think of themselves as something, but rather something they're choosing to do. Anyway, those are all great things to help encourage a growth mindset at home. I'm going to work on doing it because, as I said, I really think for myself it's a great thing, and I would really love my children to grow up with that growth mindset as much as possible. So I hope it goes well. Give it a try. That name that I said before was Carol Dweck, if you want to look into it more. She's done wonderful work on growth mindset, and it's all to do with the neuroplasticity of the brain and how we can grow and learn at any point in our lives. Okay, have a wonderful week. Bye.